chapter 43. And it came to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking unto all the people all the words of the Lord their God, wherewith the Lord their God had sent him to them, even all these words, then spoke Azariah, the son of Hoshaiah, and Jochanan, the son of Kareach, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, You speak falsely, the Lord our God hath not sent you to say, You shall not go into Egypt to sojourn there. But Baruch, the son of Neriah, setteth you on against us, to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that they may put us to death, and carry us away captives to Babylon. So Jochanan, the son of Kareach, and all the captains of the forces, and all the people, hearkened not to the voice of the Lord, to dwell in the land of Judah. But Jochanan, the son of Kareach, and all the captains of the forces, took all the remnant of Judah, that were returned from all the nations where they had been driven to sojourn in the land of Judah, the men, and the women, and the children, and the king's daughters, and every person that Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had left with Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, and Jeremiah the prophet, and Baruch, the son of Neriah. And they came into the land of Egypt, for they hearkened not to the voice of the Lord, and they came even to Tachpenches. Then came the word of the Lord unto Jeremiah in Tachpenches, saying, Take great stones in your hand, and hide them in the mortar, in the framework, which is in the entry of the Pharaoh's house in Tachpenches, in the sight of the men of Judah. And say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Behold, I will send and take Nebuchadrezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and I will set his throne upon these stones that I have hid, and he shall spread his royal pavilion over them, and he shall come and smite the land of Egypt, such as for death to death, and such as for captivity to captivity, and such as for the sword to the sword. And I will kindle a fire in the houses of the gods of Egypt, and he shall burn them, and carry them away captives, and he shall fold up the land of Egypt, as a shepherd folds up his garment, and he shall go forth from there in peace. And he shall also break the pillars of Bethshemesh, that is in the land of Egypt, and the houses of the gods of Egypt shall he burn with fire. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. Now, continuing in this story of Jochanan, this remnant, these residue that is left of Judah, these ones that God's cut out, He set them aside. He's going to make an example even. That's what He's using them for. And we'll remember now in the last chapter that Jochanan, the son of Kareach, that's my God's showing a little mercy, my God's showing a little pity to the one who's had his glory removed. And we'll remember that those that would listen to God, God was going to save them. And we'll see, they came to Jeremiah and they said, Jeremiah, go pray to the Lord for us, if we might ask a favor, and see if what he might tell us to do and where we might go. So Jeremiah did, because they had promised to listen to God no matter what God said. But Jeremiah was gone 10 days, that there could be a little bit of understanding. And when he had returned, we're going to find out, see, and told them, don't go into Egypt, but stay here if you will stay here. See, if you will stay here. Because God loves to put that little if in there to see if you will follow Him. Because that's all God says is follow me. He ain't going to make you do it. But He gave you the choice. See, God made you free will that you could choose in understanding, but you have to have understanding to choose correctly. And we're going to see now that they wasn't going to listen to Jeremiah, and they've told him now that this just ain't going to, this ain't the truth. God didn't send you back to speak these words. And we'll see now Jeremiah has told them now that they've dealt deceitfully. They've tricked Jeremiah, sending him to the Lord when they wasn't going to listen to God anyway. And God has done told him now, you will die by the sword, by the famine, and by the pestilence, if you go down there, and if you choose Egypt, that place of enclosures, to dwell there. And we're going to pick it up in verse 1. And it came to pass that when Jeremiah had made an end of speaking unto all the people all the words of the Lord their God, wherewith the Lord their God had sent him to them, even all these words. So now, after Jeremiah, this one whom the Lord has appointed, the one whom God has appointed, even the one who Yah has appointed, to make an end of speaking, when he got done telling them all these words, that if you'll stay here, God's going to build you up. If you'll stay here in Judah, God will build you up. He won't destroy you. But if you choose now to go down into Egypt, God's going to come there after you. Verse 2. Then spoke Azariah, the son of Hoshaiah, and Johanan, the son of Kareach, and all the proud men, saying unto Jeremiah, You speak falsely. The Lord our God has not sent you to say, You shall not go into Egypt to sojourn there. So they just come right out and call Jeremiah a liar. See, they're saying you're speaking falsely. God did not tell you to say these things, that we shouldn't go down into Egypt, because they've done got their mind set to go into Egypt. That's where they was heading anyway. And Azariah, this is the one who helped my God. He is the son of those that were saved by my God. And Yochanan, we all know Yochanan, he is my God's mercy, and he's the son of Kareach, the one whom God has stripped of their glory. They saying you're a liar, verse 3, But Baruch, the son of Neriah, setteth you on against us to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, that they may put us to death and carry us away captives to Babylon. So they think that Baruch, this blessed, he is the son, or the one who come from the glistening light of God. He set you against us to deliver us into the hand of the Chaldeans, these Chaldeans being the clod breakers. They're supposed to be the wisest in the land, but they go behind the plow, they break the clods, and they might put us to death and carry us to get Babylon, even that place of confusion. So they think Baruch is a traitor even. They think Baruch is working for the other side. 4. So Yochanan, the son of Kareach, and all the captains of the forces, and all the people hearkened not to the voice of the Lord, to dwell in the land of Judah. So they decided they're not going to listen to God. They're not going to listen to whom God has sent, this one whom God has sent, even Jeremiah. They're going to go ahead. Now, they sent Jeremiah to God to see what God would say, promising we will do whatever he says, good or bad. And then when God tells them to stay here, they say, no, we ain't going to listen, thinking somebody trying to trick them. 5. But Yochanan, the son of Kareach, and all the captains of the forces took all the remnant of Judah that were returned from all the nations whither they had been driven to sojourn there in the land of Judah. And they hadn't been driven to sojourn in the land of Judah. See, they took all the remnant of Judah, those that was left there to live, who we'll find that Nebuzaradan had given to Gedaliah. See, that's the ones we're talking about. And they had been driven out now from there when Babylon came in and went around and was staying in all the other nations that was around. But remember, when they heard that Gedaliah had been given the charge, they all came back out and was gathered together. 6. The men and the women and the children and the king's daughters and every person that Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, had left with Gedaliah, the son of Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, and Jeremiah the prophet, and Baruch the son of Neriah. So these ones, even Jeremiah and Baruch the son of Neriah, that glistening light, every person, the men, the women, the children, the king's daughters, all of them that Nebuzaradan, and that's the prophet that was sowed to discontent. That's the prophet that had the seeds. And he's the captain of the guard. He rules over those that are in the prison. He had left all these people in charge with Gedaliah. Gedaliah is, my God is growing greater and greater. God is magnifying himself through this. He is the son, or the one who comes from that, my brother is risen, my brother is stood up. He's the one that hides in the earth, and Jeremiah, the one whom the Lord had sent, and Baruch, the blessed, the son of the glistening light of God. 7. And they came into the land of Egypt, for they hearkened not to the voice of the Lord, and they came even to Tachpanhes. And Tachpanhes is a place in Egypt, and Tachpanhes just, it means basically the hands that are full of mercy. They've come to Egypt. And that's that land of enclosures looking for mercy. See, looking for these hands full of mercy, these works of mercy. And we're going to find out these are idols and images that were in Egypt. They're looking for anything but the judgment of God, because they're running from God. They're running from God. They got their backs to God, and they're running away from the law. We're going to find this out. See, this is what they've been doing. They don't want to hearken to the law. They don't want to listen. 8. Then came the word of the Lord unto Jeremiah in Tachpanhes, and saying. So now, in this place with these hands full of mercy, the word of the Lord is none come to the one whom God has appointed, saying. 9. Take great stones in your hand, and hide them in the mortar in the framework, which is in the entry of the Pharaoh's house in Tachpanhes, and in the sight of the men of Judah. So, what God's telling Jeremiah to do in front of everybody in the Pharaoh's house, in this great house even, in Tachpanhes, that place with the hands full of mercy. Take you great stones, and we're not talking about a big rocks. We're not talking about great huge stones that would be hard to carry. We're talking about a bunch of, many stones, and these stones always represent law, truth, in your hand. And so he's going to take a bunch of stones in his hand, and he's going to go hide them in the mortar, in the framework. And this mortar, what it is the clay. See, because they was making bricks, and we're going to assume that this house they're building there was a brick house, because Jeremiah took and hid these stones inside these bricks. In this framework, that's what the framework was. These bricks where they would fill the frame with mud and make bricks. So Jeremiah has hidden them there now, and this is what the Pharaoh is going to be building his house out of. It represents that even which the Pharaoh built his house out of, that even that great house. 10, and say unto them, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, Behold, I will send and take Nebuchadrezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and will set his throne upon these stones that I have hid, and he shall spread his pavilion over them. So now God is going to take Nebuchadrezzar, this prophet that protects the crown. He is the king of confusion. My servant, God said, he works for me. And will set his throne, and his throne is his rule. See, this is his rule upon these stones representing the law, that I have hid, and he shall spread his royal pavilion over them, or he shall cover over them, because that's what it is, to spread his royal pavilion, his kingdom. 11. And he shall come and shall smite the land of Egypt, such as for death to death, and such as for captivity to captivity, and such as for the sword to the sword. And this is what he will do. He will come to Egypt, and basically what the king of Babylon did, he come down there and conquered Egypt. He didn't have no trouble conquering Egypt, as we're going to find out, just like God said. It was just as easy as he wanted to do it. And he came to Egypt, this land of enclosures, and he did deliver such as for death to death. And to death is, and we're going to see here, he's dividing. He's dividing them up, splitting them up, because God's doing a work. He's using king of Babylon, king of confusion, to do this work. Dividing up those for death to death. And why were they dead? Well, they had sinned. They had went against the law of God, and to sin, to pervert your understanding, to go sin is death. You're dead. and such as for captivity to captivity. And these are those who make their mind willing to open their ear and listen, but will find out deceit has delivered them into captivity in their understanding. See, their understanding has been taken captive by deceit, and such as for the sword to the sword. And this is the judgment of God. The sword is what comes to those who do not observe the law of God for their own good. They get the sword, even the word of judgment. 12. And I will kindle a fire in the houses of the gods of Egypt, and he shall burn them, and carry them away captive, and he shall fold up the land of Egypt, as a shepherd foldeth up his garment, and he shall go forth from there in peace. And basically this whole thing just means he's not going to have any trouble in Egypt when he takes fire, which represents the judgment of God, and burns the houses of these not gods of Egypt, even that land of enclosures. That's what was making the land of enclosures, was all these not gods they had. All these not gods got their own little prison house, got everybody in their own little prison. But God gave them not gods to rule over them. Why? Because they erred. See, they turned their back to the Lord their God. Egyptians are the descendants of Ham. He's the son of Noah. They had the covenant. They had the understanding. But we'll find out it's just a circle that goes around. But he's going to take the land of Egypt, this land of enclosures, and this foldeth up his garment. He's going to enwrap himself with it. He's going to put it on just like a shepherd would cover himself with his garment. And that's what this word fold, or this word put on or cover, that's what it means, to cover, or kind of like to hide. And he will leave there in peace. 13, he shall also break the pillars of Bethshemesh, that is in the land of Egypt, and the houses of the gods of Egypt shall he burn with fire. Pretty easy to do when they're not gods. See, these are not gods. These are the Elohim. These are the strong ones which the mighty one uses to rule over the nations, even to rule over that place of enclosures, Egypt. But he's going to break the pillars. He's going to break down these pillars of Beth-Shemesh. Why? Beth-Shemesh was the sun temple. That was the sun temple, and it's kind of hard to make an image of the sun. So what they did was they had pillars set up. These pillars are that which represents this image of, see, because God said, you shall not make yourself an image of anything, heaven nor earth, man nor woman, or beast, nor anything. See, that's really what that word anything means. You shall not have an image before you. And that's what all this meant. Because, see, this is what Egypt had done. This is what the sons of Ham had done. They started making them other gods, whittling it out. See, whittling them out every image they could think of. This to rule over this to rule over that. And God said, you shall not do these things. They did not hearken to the word of God. See, they did not obey the law of God. We will find it written, even in their text, the law of God clearly written. They did not hearken. It's a circle going around, see. And it's just a matter of time. In this land of Egypt, it represents the whole land. That land of enclosures where God brought them out of. See, God delivered them from this, breaking the bonds, breaking the fetters, releasing them with the law setting them free and understanding, not needing anything else. God giving you everything you need. Go and prosper. But see, that's not what happened then. That's not what's going on now. Judgment of God. See, the judgment of God in the earth, because that they have turned from the Lord their God, and that they do not observe the law for their own good. This was not the wish of God. See, this is what men have done to the Word of God to create gain. So turn and return. Let's move to chapter 44.